Geza Rohrig, tell us about the character that you play in Son of Saul.
Saul is a community of one. He's a lonely man. And at the time the movie starts, he's already dead. A walking dead who is being resurrected by the death of this boy, so to speak. The life of the boy somehow, transmits into his body, and that added energy, or sanctity, stops Saul and opens his eyes, because there was so much death around him. If you have lots of death, if death is everywhere, then death is nowhere. And so out of all these countless thousands of death, one kind of stood out because this death was different, and behaved as a sign that, the rule is not to survive the gas chamber. So if someone does survive the gas chamber, that is a miracle. And what's that miracle for? If the boy dies a minute later by a Nazi doctor. So he was in debt to this boy. He was grateful to this boy. I'm not saying this, of course, that this was a conscious thought process on the part of Saul, but he felt that he owes this boy a proper burial. And that's what he's after. He's revolting his own way. It's, to me, is a level higher than the revolt the others are engaged in too. It's a legitimate political move to get the hell out of here. They all want to save their skins. Saul is not interested just to sustain, his physicality. At this point, his life is over as soon as he has no purpose to be around, and he lost all the purposes. He has one purpose left. It's a new purpose, and that is to bury this boy. And that's why I think he smiles at the end of the movie. I don't think that, to me, he's not smiling at the boy, that Polish boy. I think he smiles because he has fulfilled his mission. Yes, he wasn't able to bury his son with a Kaddish, but he did what he could. He put the right effort into this. The outcome is never in our hands completely, and he was able to save, his son, his adopted son, from the fire.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real selflessness and nobility to it. I think that when people first hear what the movie is about, they probably think, well, that's kind of weird and a little, macabre. But, watching the movie, you see that it's very selfless,
Yeah, but I hear that, I get that a lot. That people come up to me and they say, like, I just wanted him to drop that boy. I mean, this is so frustrating. It is, what's the practicality to bury a boy when thousands are being gassed and burned every day there? Why is this boy different? What's the point? And it's very hard to argue with that, because it's really, I think this sort of reading of the film really depends on you. I mean, if you don't find Saul's quest spiritual and uplifting, then I can't explain it to you.
And redemptive too.
Redemptive too, and this holy stubbornness that he's going, you know, after, despite one obstacle and fake rabbi after the other, he keeps going, because again, there are very few things that are for sure that, but you know, clothing the naked, feeding the hungry, and bury the dead. These are some, you know, base values that I think we all, no matter what, you know, race, religion, or age or gender we are coming from, we can at least agree on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he's, you know, he's God's last witness, and I think that his behavior shows a glimmer of hope. You know, this is, a lot has been said about the so-called Americanization of the Holocaust, the compulsory happy end, but there is no happy end, because we didn't want to deviate from historical reality, and overwhelmingly the Jews died. That was the norm. So we didn't want to tell a tale of surviving. But there is still hope, another kind of hope, in the very beginning, in the very behaving and choice Saul is making.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where the hope comes from. It's from watching this man who, you know, despite the odds, continues to try to do the right thing.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah. I'm curious what kind of preparation you did for the role, you know, if research or...
Yeah, lots of research.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think I was more... You know, I think I knew quite a lot about the Shoah before ever, you know, decades before I read the script. But when it comes to the Sonderkommando, I felt desperately that I need to know everything, I need to know more. So I relied on literature, and I found, you know, basically like 4 or 5 books on this matter that are very, very instructive. You know, describing in a painstakingly detailed way exactly what was their function and how are they carrying out their functions. You know, let it be cutting the hair or pulling the teeth, the gold teeth, or, you know, disposing the death, burning the death, pulverizing the ashes, finding the bones and bringing them to the nearby river, or ushering in the still living victims in, you know, and then disinfecting the empty chamber, and painting the walls, the whole 4-hour, you know, after the dead were taken out from the chambers. It took like 4 hours to make the chambers in conditions that are believable for the next transport. That is nothing else but a shower room. So I kept reading, and I kept asking myself, what does it with you if you have to do this? You know? And what sort of a state of mind would it take for someone to do this day by day?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, you know, it's intense material to have to deal with. You know, I can only imagine what it must be like as an actor having to go to those dark places every single day of filming, you know.
Oh, Zach, let's not, you know, acting is imitating. No, seriously.
Yeah.
You know, this is just a Lego hell. This is not the real one. But of course, but would that be appropriate, or to list of my complaints of what sort of you know, troubles I've been through by bringing Saul's character alive? I think it would be almost distasteful. I think that, you know, what we tried to do with this movie, including my acting, is to bring the public awareness to the Sonderkommando members and to some degree rehabilitate them.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are lots of things were said about them and felt about them, and I think that is utterly unjust.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to, in some way, this movie is a corrective, not only for other Holocaust movies, but also this sort of a post-war, despise of the Sonderkommando members.
Yeah, it really does feel like a story that, hasn't been told on film. I mean, there have been countless Holocaust films before, but,
Or even if it was, like Tim Blake Nelson made a movie called Grey Zone.
Right, yeah.
Not that long ago. But that movie also blamed the Sonderkommando members. So I don't think, with all due respect, he got it right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to, what's really great about this movie is how intimate it is, and the fact that it's all really from your perspective, and there's a lot that is left unsaid, where it's just sort of you reacting to things, or you're thinking about things. There's those quiet moments that I think get taken for granted in good acting, So I'm wondering what, playing those scenes, if you could talk a bit about that.
Oh, which one are you referring to?
Well, I mean, just in, things where so much of the film is just watching you thinking and putting things together in your head. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the nature of this movie, because of the visual restriction,
Mm-hmm.
Being entirely focused on my face and let everything else be on the peripheries in a blurry, out of focus way, I think is that, I would say 60-70% of the things that took place in the background never ended up on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to be, because of the low budget, as economical as possible. This is a movie around $1 million only.
Wow.
But their chaos was part of the order. So it's a handheld camera, and even though we tried to kind of choreograph every frame, there were things that simply did not end up on the picture,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the way it is. And we knew that's the way it is. It's a little bit like feeding a baby. Half of the food's going to end up on the baby's neck.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the only way to do it, and we did not want. I thought that was a very conscious decision of Laszlo, who's a very disciplined filmmaker. That before even anything else, we really sit down and we were thinking, what sort of an experience we want the viewer to get through. Do we want the viewer to cry? No, we don't. We don't want to cry. Crying is relief. We don't want to feel good after crying. We don't want that. We want to deliver a punch. So the idea was how to achieve that sort of an effect. We want to transport the viewer right into the here and now of 1944 October, the epicenter of an extermination camp. We didn't want any sort of interpreting some sort of post-war paradigm, some sort of a historical drama. We wanted to do less than that, because we thought that lots of the movies are basically using and abusing the Holocaust. They are playing out a story, and they use the Holocaust and the dramatic volume of the Holocaust as a background. And it's just not fair. If you are making a motion picture about a concentration camp or a genocide, you really have to forge a new cinematic language.
Mm-hmm. I just want to ask, one more thing. You mentioned the director a few times.
Yeah.
It sounds like you two had just a really great collaboration there.
The three of us.
Yeah, the three of you?
4 of us.
4 of us. Who were the other 2?
Well, the cinematographer and the sound designer.
Yes, yeah.
The sound designer was mostly post-production, but this could have not been done without Mátyás, the DOP, the cinematographer.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say I did 2 lead roles in my early 20s, and I never saw we really became a community for these 28 days. There were no any sort of tension or personal conflict whatsoever. The whole crew was extremely focused.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a remarkable movie. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.